I'm a constituent of the Congresswoman, and this is the third town hall that I've attended. I did attend one online during COVID, but I'm one of her constituents, and I do have concerns about many of the issues. And she always informs her constituents, both online and social media platforms, as well as at town hall. She's very, very good at informing us. So I feel like I am an informed constituent. I feel like I know the issues that she's facing, and I feel like I have her support.
What are the top issues for you?
Top issues for me would be environment, tribal sovereignty. I'm a member of a registered tribe. Child care, even though it doesn't affect me personally. I'm certainly concerned about the welfare of our children. So I feel very supported by my congresswoman. Thank you.
I haven't heard a lot on tribal sovereignty. Is there anything particular happening with that issue right now? That
there is actually an issue that I brought to her at the last town hall, and my tribal chairperson has been in contact with her office because she sits on the Energy Commission, and members of my tribe are concerned about offshore wind farms and the impact on the environment, as well as the impact on our cultural traditions. So we just want to make sure that our position is heard. We are in support of renewable energy, but we want to make sure that the impact to our tribal life is minimized.
What would I think everyone kind of understands that there's an environmental impact, but what would the impact to tribal traditions be of wind farms?
Mostly with our fishing. I mean, it certainly can affect fishing. It can affect shoreline agriculture. There are some issues there. I can't really speak too much in depth on it, but suffice to say that my tribal office has been in contact with the Congresswoman because she sits on that committee. So we do feel like we're being heard. Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming.
Slaughter of the innocents, they're already for it. So if we're talking about justice, I believe in justice.
Alright, so why did you come out today?
So I came out today. I'm from Canada, and I'm here at the school of the New York Times doing a 2-8 journalism program, and my friend here just found out that she was performing tonight, and I'm a huge fan of AOC, so I just really wanted to come out and hear her in person since it might be one of the only chances I get.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, me as well. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, so I've always watched her live stream. She the way she communicates is so efficient, and it's a really great way for me as a young person to understand what's going on politically. So since we were in New York for the New York Times, it's just such a lovely opportunity to come here.
Okay, so as you have pointed out, you are young, both of you. What are the big issues that are important for you right now, and what are the big issues that you want someone in her position to be addressing?
I would say right now the biggest one for me is the environment, because that is one that's going to, like, a lot of the issues she talks about, that affects everyone, and the environment does affect everyone, but it will continue to affect us the most for like a long time of our lives. So that's one of the main reasons I came out, because she was talking about renewable energy, and I think that's probably a big concern for me, is just the environment and climate change in general.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one. Also, just the discrimination in general for people of color and the LGBTQIA community. And also, I'm really glad she commented on the affirmative action decision. That really affects both of us, especially me as an Asian American. So I'm really glad that she's talking about those issues and discrimination. And of course, the environment is a big one for people our age as well.
I'm sorry, you cited a specific decision. I didn't hear what you said.
The affirmative action decision.
Right. Okay. Do you want to say what your view on that is?
Yeah, Yeah, I think that was in place so that people who didn't have a chance before to apply to these colleges and to have a higher education could do so. And striking that down, especially as she pointed out, when all these other things like legacy and donations aren't being touched, is really sad, especially for lower income communities and people of color who don't always get a chance. Like Harvard is very white. I'm from Boston, I know. So yeah.
So the argument, I think, on the other side was that the affirmative action policies that they had in place were discriminatory against Asians, specifically Asian Americans. Do you see another side of that issue too?
Yeah, definitely. I do understand that a lot of statistics have said, and I'm not going to say that I know this for sure, that it mostly benefits white women. And so I definitely think that the affirmative action policy was not perfect, and there were definitely some issues with it, but I personally don't think that striking it all down was the right thing to do. And Asian Americans like myself, who were like, oh, this is a win for us, I don't think that's fair, and that's especially harmful to other communities where it's definitely not a win, like the Black community.
Right. Any other big topics?
So like I said, I'm from Canada, so I don't know a ton about all the specific like protocols that she's been putting forward. But I have heard about this person who tried to put forward a case against an LGBTQ person, and as a member of that community, I think it's gonna be absolutely insane to be able to not like legally not be allowed to sell things to people just because of the discrimination against someone's sexual orientation. So I'm really glad to hear that that won't affect people in this state and in this city. I would like to learn more about how that affects other people in the country, though. That's all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was interested in whether the George Floyd bill was passed, where is it going? And that was my concern because my grandson was killed November the 3rd by a police. So therefore, I wanted to know what was going on. And I was having a question, and I looked it up, and I saw that police shootings in 2021, there was 177 blacks that was killed, and 78 Hispanics was killed. In 2022, there was 225 blacks was killed, and 120 Hispanics was killed. So I was wondering, the New York City funds the police, and it's $5.6 billion is given to the police department. I wanted to know, with that money that is given to the police department, could something be done as, say for instance, a medic? When a police is called, a medic is also there as well, and they administer first aid before EMT comes. This is my point, because they can save many lives if a medic is there. He can give medication, and he can update the EMT and say, well, the person is such and such, and then they can transfer that person out.
The numbers that you were citing, those were national statistics?
Yes, that's
okay.
national, yes.
When you say police being accompanied by a medic, are you talking about on like emotional crisis calls or specific kinds of activities?
They're working with the police in crisis situations, as well as, say for instance, the police officer shoot that person. The medic is right there. Just like in the service, you have a medic. They are giving medication right there on the spot. And that will save a lot of people, especially black young men.
I think that I've heard some people propose that for like emotional distress situations, but some of the shootings that have happened have been on traffic stops and different situations like that. So are you envisioning something that would work in any kind of situation?
In
like
any kind of situation, you have a medic there. You have a trained medic there to give the support that is needed, medical support that is needed. Yes.
So you wanted to get kind of like a status report from her on what's happening with the
George Floyd, right.
Yeah.
Accountability, because police must be accountable for their actions. They can't keep on doing what they are doing. Something has to be done. So that is my concern, definitely. When you have a lot of black people are being killed and Hispanics, just like I said last year, that was a high rate. That was a high, I don't know the statistic for 2023. They're not out as yet. But I guess there'll be another high rate as well.
Thank you for talking.
Thank you.
Okay, so why did you come out to this AOC town hall today?
First of all, I'm here representing an organization called GALF, the Guinean American League of Friends for Freedom. It's an organization that have over 25,000 members just in the Bronx, and fortunately, most of those 25,000 members live in her district. So some of, among the issues that I want to talk about, you have human rights violations, not just here, but here and abroad, because I know she served in the Foreign Committee, so particularly human rights violation in Guinea, which is something that's been going on for years, and I think it has not been properly addressed by the Congress. Being an American myself, I feel like the same way we are addressing issues in countries like Ukraine and others, we should do the same thing in those countries of Africa, especially. And the other stuff that I want to talk about, most of us, a big percentage of our community are business owners. However, they have a problem accessing to resources, like financial resources, mostly with banks and other lenders. So this is another issue that I want to talk about. So those basically are the main issues that I want to talk to her about.
You said you're concerned about human rights issues both here
and abroad. Yes.
Right? So what are the human rights issues here?
As an immigrant, most of the time, for someone who's not immigrant, probably won't feel that. But when you go to banks and you ask for a loan, or when you go to certain public places, just by saying a name that is not familiar, seems to be either disqualifying or just not being considered as honest.
Do you find that to be a common issue in New York? Because I think a lot of people would think, well, New York is full of immigrants.
I think it is because I have a lot of networks, of both immigrant and non-immigrants. So this is something that I talk to people very often, and I know, like in the Indian community, where I have a lot of friends, people very often talk about it.
Is there any specific foreign policy?
Yes,
let's move back a little bit.
Guinea is a country that has been led by dictators, for decades now. Since 1990. Let's say since 1958 till this year, we have been ruled by undemocratic people. So because of that, the country is not being what it should be in terms of development. It has a lot of resources that I think even few other countries has in the world. However, people, over 80% of the population live below the poverty level.
What kind of U.S. policy response would you want
I think, when America sneezes, the world catch cold, right? So, what we want to do is, what we want to emphasize is to tell them to let these guys know that they should implement free democratic elections in order to put the people that the population choose in power, who are going to be accountable. In this, I feel like once we have that, people will feel like if they don't do what's right, they will be kicked out by in the next election, the same way that is happening here. So this will definitely lead to prosperity.
Anything else that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, a few other issues, but those are the main ones that I want to address today. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. So yeah, why did you come out to the AOC Town Hall today?
Well, I came to inquire, actually get some information on trying to restore Pell Grants in the prison system. It's something that was canceled many years ago, 1994, in the crime bill. And I work as a curriculum designer in the area, and just trying to find ways to kind of create some workforce development, some educational development in the community. And I think that one of the resources that I'm trying to fill in is how can we get money to these kids so they can continue their education while they're in prison. So when they come out, they have some sort of reform and don't really have to begin their lives at zero, and just create greater economic situations for them. So trying to get information and how I can kind of create an initiative or maybe even get some grants, state or federal. So yeah.
So you're saying that there aren't sufficient existing programs for
No, they're totally eliminated.
training and
They've been eliminated. There was public outcry from families that have been victimized by these perpetrators, and they want to see them not only incarcerated, but they want to see them severely punished for their crimes while they're in jail. So they want to see their hopes of developing a life outside of prison eliminated or restricted. So, yeah.
And what levels of institutions are we talking about? Are we talking about Rikers? Are we talking about what kinds of locations?
Rikers, state prisons, just not the local prison, but state prisons, New York prisons.
Any other important issues for you?
No. I just, that's about it. That's my agenda.
Did you want to comment?
I would just like to thank Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez for representing the Bronx in such a strong manner. I'm glad she's fighting for us. She understands what our issues are. And I can see her having a long career representing not only New York, not only Co-op City where I live, the United States. She's doing an outstanding job, and we appreciate her. Thank you.
Do you want to say what the top issues for you are?
I would like to see an immigration bill eventually passed. I think disparity in income, which she mentioned, the 1%ers now own approximately 97% of the wealth in this country. I believe that there are opportunities from some of President Biden's administration that should be brought to light for our community members to get involved. And again, she mentioned that there are a lot of blue-collar positions that are available. I think we need to get the word out there that our guys should be subcontracting these jobs. Our guys should be leading some of these jobs. Our young ladies are ready to take on different roles. And those are the issues that are important for me and my family and our community. My name is Mr. Capel.
Thank you very much for talking with me. Okay, great.
Hi, my name is Melissa. I'm a local in Hunts Point, and I've been following with AOC for a while, going to her meetings, talking to her. because we're both like aspiring to be in like politics and Congress and stuff. So yeah.
I came today because I'm a graduating class of 2024, and after the Supreme Court, decision, obviously the neighborhood that I'm in is heavily affected. So bright young students in my school may not receive the same chances that they might have had last year. So I wanted to really talk to her. I didn't have the chance, but that's okay. I wanted to really talk to her about, like how or what ways is she gonna help bright young students in low-income communities like this one, because I'm a student here. So how is she gonna help low-income students, who are black and brown, to be able to, I guess, match whatever people who are in richer neighborhoods, who have like private teachers, who are legacies. So how do we compete with these students when the Supreme Court isn't really putting into the fact where we're from and how we look? So even though it's a big part of it, so that's why I came here today. Thank you so much.
Do you have any ideas about that? About how you would like to see this topic addressed going forward, given the decision?
In terms of how it's addressed, I don't want it to be babied, because a lot of the times it's sugar coated, like, oh, this, but I think the reality is college affects our lives, like, so if it's going to affect the rest of our lives, I think it's very important that it's told the truth of this is what's going to happen, because in a lot of other states like California already got rid of affirmative action before, and their rates of college students like dropped significantly by I think 50%. So imagine nationwide what it could look like, and when schools like Yale and NYU already have like 5% diversity, imagine what's going to happen now. So I think addressing the question is probably, won't be figured out in a few months. Maybe not in the time I enroll in college, but I think that moving forward, there has to be other ways that students who look like me and Melissa over here, how our accomplishments can still be recognized on a higher stage and, be put towards, put us into higher places.
So the argument that was made on the other side was that the existing affirmative action programs were discriminatory against Asian students. What do you think about that argument?
But the reality is that affirmative action mostly benefited white women, so that clearly doesn't really make sense. Plus, if a student is, how affirmative action works, if a student is from a poor neighborhood like this one, right, and they're matching the same scores as people who are getting private tutors, imagine what they could do in bigger institutes where they're getting higher education, where they're getting paid more. Where they're getting, the same resources that other students across the country have in the best high schools in the world, with the best tutors, with the best SAT, private tutors and all that, which our school doesn't have access to, or other schools in our neighborhood, public schools, where kids just as bright don't have access to. So it's like, how can you say it's discriminating against you when literally systematically we're being oppressed every day? So you have a comment? Yeah, of course.
Also, the whole Asian argument is stupid, because Asians are minorities. They qualify for affirmative action. So that is just so stupid to me. Not only that, white women can also qualify, and also like poor students. I just find the whole thing so I don't know, I just find it so ignorant, because saying that you're discriminated against someone that's actively trying to help you and other people of color is, I can't even say anything right now.
Even if for example, Harvard, right, if their admissions rate is about 5%, if every Asian student applied to Harvard, still students would be left out. Even the best performing students, who applied would still be left out, just because there's not enough spots, right? So to give the chance of people who don't have the same opportunities as people in the richest neighborhoods, in America, or who have the best education, because what was it, 2-3 years ago, where we found out that celebrity kids were literally paying people to take their SAT scores, and so it's like there's already a cheat code. And looking through history, when you have people who've always been oppressed, never had that option of paying someone to take your SAT, but you still having students who are succeeding and who are doing well and demonstrating black excellence in higher institutions, diversity plays a role. America is a melting pot, and our schools, if they don't look like a melting pot, or they don't reflect the America that we all live in, it's like, what type of education is even going to be displayed there, because a lot of these students, they probably never even came to a community like mine, nor have I ever been to a community like theirs. So just to be able to learn about someone like how we're having, I guess, a discussion right now, it brings a lot of value in education alone, besides from just the textbook, that that you can't get from a textbook. So I think to ignore that aspect of education also, I wouldn't call it ridiculous, because the Supreme Court justices, I don't think they're idiots. Like, these people, they're clearly smart. They demonstrated it. But a lot of the times, I feel like when you're in such an institute where all these people are saying do this, do that, like, it can be very frustrating. And even for the smartest people, you break down or something happens where you may do something that affects the rest of our lives. So I think, basically.
So you're both looking at going into politics. That's something you have in mind.
Yes,
Okay.
I think we both want to be lawyers.
So the education stuff is immediate future, but down the line, what are the big topics that make you want to get into politics?
Mine is when they overturned Roe v. Wade. I just feel like it just go against the Constitution, where it just protects the rights for everyone, and just like taking away the right for a woman to choose her own body, and like healthcare is just so terrible. And also like the fact that I live in Hunts Point my whole life, I've seen so many injustices, from racial injustice, economics, environmental. I grew up with these. I didn't have a choice. I was born with asthma because of where I live. I had continued to suffer from it. And just like our quality of education is so vastly different compared to like those in Riverdale or those more upstate, like I just feel like it's my job, because it's not the youth and who is going to stand up for our right, for what we believe in.
For me personally, so it kind of hit me when I was younger, because I just like to learn. I'm just a learner. I'm a curious person. That's what I call myself. So I found out that 1/3 of black males were in the incarceration system or have been to prison at least once in their life. And to me, that's a staggering fact, because how are we the minority in America, but we're the majority in prisons? So, and when you look at all the systematic like laws and all the systematic, just institutions that exist, that have, from Ronald Reagan to war on drugs, that have put people who look like me specifically in prisons, I just can't live with myself to say that, because I have 3 brothers, right? And with this stat, it means that including me, I have 3 brothers. So one of us will eventually go to prison or see prison. I just can't, I can't see that happening. So in the future, I want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And a lot of the times, like, a lot of the reasons why people who look like me are in prison is, they never had a jury, never had a court case, or just simply because of other laws that are abolished. For example, in terms of like marijuana and stuff. So it's like, why are these people still in prison when these things are now legal, and the people benefiting don't look like them? Like, there's a saying like, no, I think Kanye said it. I probably shouldn't say that. But he's like, dang, I can't remember the bar, but he's like, a drug dealer gets paid, but a white man gets paid all of that. And he's not just talking about white people. He's talking about the fact that there are people who are richer than these people, where you may capture people you think is doing the problem, but there's a high problem out there that no one is addressing. Like poverty is a huge, where I think it's just looked at and then gone, or even if the way that the message, like, are you a journalist, I assume, or you like to journal? Journalist, are you?
Yeah.
Right? So even the way that the message, like, for example, when there is a mass shooting in a community that looks like mine, it's gang violence or drugs or disaffiliated, right? But as soon as it's in a community, maybe wealthy, that doesn't look like, people don't look like me, or, mostly white, it's like, let's get rid of the gun conversation gets brought up. Where in mine, every time it's like, let's, push this aside because it's just gang violence. They just there is issues on both sides. So I'm like, why is it treated different every time, So
how do you think it should be treated in your community?
Equally, because we both bleed red. So if people are going to talk about how mental issues affect school shooters, for example, which is the main, argument against guns, for example, why is not the same argument for people who are in gangs? Because a lot of these people were brought up without a choice. You know, were brought up without a choice to, you know. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can go. A lot of these people were brought up without a choice of joining a gang or whatever, or they literally had to do this for their life, right? So it's like, why is it so different? I mean, besides from, and the ways that, I think you as a journalist probably have seen it, the way that sometimes news is presented between certain groups is very different. And to me, I just can't, it's like sit aside and see that. That's why I'm here today listening to her, because she's inspirational. A lot of people may hate her, but it's like, if people don't hate her, she's doing something wrong. So she's clearly doing something right. Yeah. Any more questions? This is kind of fun.
Anything you wanted to add? We're getting up there. I'm going to let you talk to her.
Oh yeah, just back to when he was talking about prison. They're gonna keep on doing that because that's how rich people get rich. Putting POC back in prison to bring back slavery because there's a loop in the 13th Amendment. You know, it says slavery is not allowed unless it's through the prison system. So I don't know if you know, like companies like Pink, Victoria's Secret. I think Gap too.
I think you need to go. Thank you.
Sorry.